So hello. So first I'd like to give a shout out to my new subscribers. Thank you for subscribing. I hope you enjoy my content. Today I want to do a video on history. History is a very favorite subject of mine. I'm very partial towards it. I've read a lot of European history and history of other civilizations. Today I want to do a video on the top 10 battles I believe that have determined the fate of European civilization. The 10 most influential battles. These are the following. So, in chronological order, the first decisive battle that shaped the future of European history would be the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. In this battle, the Greeks, led by Athens, defeated the Persian forces and prevented the conquest of Greece. Thus, Greece, the birthplace of Western philosophy and thought, was not turned into a raised vassal state. Had the Greeks lost here, the Greeks probably would have been enslaved, their culture snuffed out, and their race mixed and degraded by Semitic migration and slavery. Fortunately, however, the Greeks prevailed at Marathon and prevented a rapid invasion of the Greek peninsula. Thus, Greece, the cradle of Western civilization, of Western philosophy and thought, would persevere and ultimately would go on to inspire Western civilization. Had they lost that day at Marathon, it would have been impossible for the remaining Greek states to repel the Persian invasion. However, the Greek victory there delayed it by a decade, allowing the Greeks more time to regroup and ultimately fight the Persians head-on and defeat them at Plataea and Salamis a decade later. At number 9, we have the Battle of Metaurus, fought in 207 BC. This was the decisive battle of the Second Punic War, one that decided the fate of the Mediterranean world. Hannibal had been bogged down in futile sieges in southern Italy for more than a decade now, unable to turn Rome's allies and incapable of taking Rome itself without reinforcements. His brother Hasdrubal, however, was approaching with the requisite reinforcements and troops from Iberia. Under the Salinator, however, defeated and routed the army, which resulted in Hasdrubal's death. Without reinforcements, Hannibal was doomed to failure, as the Romans wore his forces down with attrition, and his Italian allies deserted him. With no means of taking Rome and bringing the war to an end, he was forced to camp at the toe of Italy for 2 more years. Ultimately, this gave the Romans time to regroup, replenish their losses, and invade Carthage itself, resulting in ultimate victory at Zama. Rome's triumph over Carthage left it as the undisputed master of the Mediterranean world for the next 600 years, allowing for the flourishing of the Roman Empire, Christianity, and laid the basis for Western civilization itself. Had Hasdrubal won that day and reached Hannibal, and the brothers took Rome, history would be unfathomably different. Without the Roman Empire, Western civilization as we know it would not exist, and Carthage would most likely have lorded over southern France, Italy, and Hispania for ages, permanently altering its genetics in the process. Then we have the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, which was fought in 9 AD. Rome, seeking to consolidate and complete its conquest of Germania, sent 3 legions and associated auxiliaries under General Varus in the summer of 9 AD. Varus's right hand, Arminus, a Romanized German, however, betrayed them and led them to an ambush that saw 3 legions entirely wiped out and their standards lost. The Battle of the Teutoburg Forest ended Roman expansion east of the Rhine. Though the Romans launched retaliatory campaigns the year later, they gave up their designs on Germania and made the Rhine the frontier for the next 3 centuries. The failure of Rome to conquer Germany would have titanic consequences. Had Rome succeeded in subjugating the Germans like they did with the Gauls, Rome might have existed to this day. Rome had only 2 real military threats, the Persians to the east and the large Germanic populations to the north. The Persians were far away from the Roman heartland and never proved to be an existential threat. The barbarian Germans, however, did, and would ultimately sack and conquer the entirety of the Western Roman Empire. Had the Germans been tamed like the Gauls, there probably would have been no barbarian population large enough to ever seriously threaten and topple Rome like the Slavs and Dacians were too few in numbers, too far away, and too thinly spread. Furthermore, as Rome failed to take Germany, the Germanic people remained of pure Germanic blood, with little to no inputs, as southern inputs had gone to Gaul and Spain. Even to this day, the lands ruled longest and colonized by the Romans in France, central and southern, are less blond and have less light eye. It would be the Germans, the Franks, Angles, Visigoths, Vandals, Ostrogoths, Lombards, Saxons, Frisians, and Jews, who would instead go on to spread their genes to the rest of Europe. Next, we have the Battle of Yarmouk, fought at 636 AD. This battle between the Rashidun Caliphate and the Byzantine Empire determined the fate of the entire Middle East. Arab victory here under the legendary Khalid ibn al-Walid led to the collapse of the Byzantine Empire and Christian rule in the Middle East, and its replacement by Arabic and Islamic rule. Without this battle, it's likely that Islam would not be a major religion at all, and would most likely remain confined to the Arabian Peninsula. The Middle East today would likely remain a Christian continent free of the inbreeding, pedophilia, and other savageries of Islam. And with a Christian Middle East, Western Europe would have much more access to Eastern and Roman knowledge, perhaps speeding up the Renaissance scientific revolution by centuries. Perhaps there would be friendly open realms that would have likely seen migration from Europe. The Crusades saw hundreds of thousands of Franks migrate to the small kingdom of Jerusalem, escaping their old lands. Had the Middle East remained open, it's likely that over millennia, millions of people from Western Europe would have left their overcrowded and poverty-stricken lands and settled in the Middle East, as it was the center of trade and a source of great wealth. Plus, you always have younger sons of nobles looking for new lands. The Crusades were partially driven by the desire of the Frankish nobility to carve out new lands for their younger sons. Perhaps today the Levant and much of North Africa would be mixed, white, and Semitic, a hybrid race with an average IQ of around 95 and a GDP per capita of $10,000 to $20,000. Who knows? It would certainly have been a much better world than the one we have today. And the battle also had great religious ramifications as well. Before the Battle of Yarmouk, originally Christianity had been divided into 5 pentarchies: the holy sees of Rome, Jerusalem, Alexandria, Antioch, and Constantinople, all of equal status. However, the Battle of Yarmouk and the Islamic invasion led to the destruction of all but Rome and Constantinople. Now Christianity was simply divided between these two bickering holy sees, but the large areas ruled by the Catholic Church would see it rise as the predominant force in the Christian world, sidelining the Orthodox Church over the years. Had the Middle East not fallen to Islamic invasion and conquered by the Rashidun Caliphate, perhaps the Pentarchy system might have lived on to this day, preventing any Roman Catholic domination of the West, and perhaps preventing a Protestant Reformation as well. Next, we have the Battle of Tours, fought in 732 AD. I doubt I need to say much about this. The Battle of Tours saved Europe from Islamization and Arabization. Had the Franks lost that day, then perhaps all of France would have fallen under their rule, and the nascent Christendom in the West nipped in the bud altogether. There would be no Christian Europe at all. Plus, if the Reconquista, if it was even possible in this timeline, would have taken centuries longer, and would have been aimed at France first, there simply would be no French culture, and without French contributions to Western knowledge, thought, science, philosophy, and arts, the Renaissance and the scientific revolution would probably never have happened at all. Next, we have the Battle of Manzikert, fought in 1071 AD. The battle was the killing blow to the Byzantine Empire. Contrary to modern consensus, the Byzantine Empire had ceased to be a major power long before the sack of Constantinople in 1204. At the Battle of Manzikert, it was crushed by a Turkic Muslim force. All of Anatolia was lost to the Muslims. This loss was never truly reversed and sent the Byzantines down an irreversible decline. Byzantium, the realm that had so long stood as the bulwark of Europe and Christendom, was now put in terminal decline, and the rise of the Turkish Empire began in earnest in Anatolia. After the battle, the Byzantines would only cling to some territories on the Aegean shore, and over the years they would slowly but surely be overwhelmed by the Turks. This opened the door of Europe to the Ottoman Empire. Next, we have the Battle of Vienna, fought in 1683 between the forces of the Ottoman Empire and the combined forces of Poland and Austria. The siege of Vienna marked the high water point for the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans at their territorial zenith sought to crush the Habsburgs and bring all the Danube under Islamic domination. Had they succeeded that day, it is likely that the Danube, southern Poland, and most of Ukraine would fall under Islamic domination, and they would be subject to the vicious slavery, dysgenics, and backwardness that befell the Balkans. The Holy League, however, prevented any such outcome. The combined coalition of Russia, Austria, and Poland crushed the Ottomans at Vienna, inflicting crippling losses on the Ottoman army. The victory paved the way for the liberation of Hungary after 150 years of servitude, and threw the Ottoman Empire into terminal decline, as it was exhausted and crippled by the territorial losses from the Great Turkish War. Over the next 2 centuries, Russia would liberate nearly all European lands from Ottoman rule. Next, we have the Battle of Valmy, fought in 1792 AD. The French Revolution, orchestrated by the Judeo-Masonic cabal, had seized the reins of power in France. Yet it was on shaky ground. Catholic and pro-monarchist forces within the kingdom were preparing an insurrection, and a pro-monarchist Austro-Prussian army was marching on Paris with the intention of restoring the ancient regime. The French army was in shambles due to desertion, mutiny, and the revolution was on the brink of overthrow. Yet the battered revolutionary army pulled off a miraculous victory at Valmy, repelling the vaunted Prussian army. This seemingly small victory would have immense ripple effects. This led to a surge of support for the revolution in France and vindicated the revolutionary government. Emboldened, they soon abolished the monarchy in France, and a year later beheaded the king, leading to all of Europe declaring war on France. Later would come the reign of Robespierre, and the mass murder of clergy, burning of churches, and the slaughter of the nobility. The Battle of Valmy allowed the French Revolution to flourish and ultimately spread to all of Europe. The modern age unfolded under the shadow of the Revolution, as the old institutions of nobility, monarchy, and church were permanently crippled. The Revolution opened the door for the domination of liberalism, secularism, human rights, egalitarianism, and all the rest that has led to the modern world today. Next, we have the Battle of the Marne, fought in 1914. The German army, following the Schlieffen Plan, was steamrolling towards Paris in the autumn of 1914. It seemed as Paris would be taken as 51 German divisions marched towards it. The British prepared to evacuate France, but was persuaded to stay by Kitchener. The Franco-British forces launched an offensive on a broad front against the Germans, pushing them back and ending all hopes for a swift conclusion to the war. Moltke famously told the Kaiser that they had lost the war that day, as they had failed to knock France out of the war in short order. This would doom Germany to a long war of attrition that she would ultimately lose. Had Germany won at Marne and taken Paris, France would have had no choice but to beg for an armistice. And with France knocked out of the war, Germany and Austria would easily steamroll Russia in the east and set up puppet states in Poland, Ukraine, and the Baltic states, as they did in our time with the Brest-Litovsk Treaty. France and Benelux would gradually be reduced to German vassal states. The continent of Europe would be united under conservative and monarchist Germany, and the forces of liberal capitalist Britain would have been kept out. There would be no communist revolution, no genocide of Russians, no fascism, no World War II, no mass deaths in Europe, and no dysgenics. Britain would most likely form a transatlantic union with its white colonies and become a superstate in alliance with the US to counter the Germanic Empire. Germany, under a strong eugenic and anti-egalitarian regime, would lead Europe to the New Age. The 20th century would be a cold war between the Anglosphere and the Germanic Empire. 300 million Anglos, Scots, and Irish versus 150 million Germans, leading 200 million Slavs and 60 million French and Dutch. My bet would be on the Germans. And the final battle in this list will be the Battle of Warsaw, fought in 1920. The miracle of the Vistula, as it was called, saw the Poles smash two Soviet armies and drive the Reds out of Poland for good. The battle saved Western Europe from communism. Western Europe, particularly Germany, was already suffering from communist insurrections. Had Trotsky and co. defeated Poland and reached Germany, the likelihood was high that Germany would have fallen to communism. in 1921 as the German communists would seize control of the disillusioned country and the German army too weak to stop them. France would soon likely follow, and with his preaching about spreading the revolution proven true, Trotsky would have become the undisputed leader of the Soviet Union, and the certain ethnic group that ruled over it would never lose their grip on the country. All of continental Europe then would be under the rule of the murderous Bolshevik group. It's frightening to even think how that would have turned out. And that is all for today. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. See you next time.